Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast where I bring you the best and the brightest from the world of business, entrepreneurship, baseball, woodworking, and a lot more, where I can help you harness your own inner tenacity to drive your career forward. If you know me, I love two things: baseball, my New York Mets, and bourbon. So when the stars aligned to have Randall, Thompson, and Kris Dehnert, founders of Dugout mugs, these awesome wood contraptions we'll get to in a little bit and tell you all what they're all about. In a moment, I jumped. Plus, I got one in my hand right here, so let's get to it. Kris and Randall, welcome to the podcast, gents. Awesome, good stuff. So let's jump to it. You both have very, very unique stories, and your journeys couldn't be more different. Randall comes from the world of baseball. Kris, I believe, comes from the world of media. And you guys, the stars aligned and came together. So let's talk about, Randall, your background. You played baseball for years. What age was that? What age did you first fall in love with baseball? Were you like a little leaguer from the start?
Yeah, little leaguer from the start. Grew up playing the little league field just down the road from my house. Really fell in love with the game probably when I was like 11 or 12, but I started playing when I was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old, and I'm like, I can't wait. I got the little T-ball ready for him. He's got some good coordination, and it's I want him to be a lefty relief pitcher. I think that's what I'm going to groom him for these days. But when did you know that you had a skill, ability, and a passion that was next level? I mean, listen, there's kids that play that are freaking awesome. They're great. But then there's the ones that are just above and beyond. What did you recognize it? Did your dad recognize it? Did your coach recognize it? When was it that you knew that you were destined to take it to the next level?
I always had an unexplainable love for baseball, and I always had a passion for it, but the talent didn't always match up with the love and passion. I was kind of a late bloomer, in which I walked on to a D2 college. It was my only offer to go play baseball. And then in college, I kind of found my stride, and that's where I started getting professional attention. But before that, I was kind of just an average player my whole life.
And what was it? What was it that clicked? Was it, someone said, hey, you throw the ball pretty hard. Why don't you get on that mound and see what you could do?
Yeah, I moved from a third baseman that just didn't really hit very well to getting on the mound and throwing kind of hard. So that's kind of the transition that happened.
And I love to always ask, who were a couple of your baseball idols growing up?
Loved Chipper Jones. Pretty much
Matt Killer.
Pretty much any Brave in the 90s. And then also I loved David Eckstein growing up just because I was an undersized player. And just watching what he did on a diamond was inspiring for me.
As much as I hate the Braves as a Mets fan, as a diehard Mets fan, you got to respect Chipper. I mean, he named his kid Shea. I mean, if there's anything better than that, it's awesome. And as the story goes, you were, the scouts came out, and you joined. Were you drafted or you signed by the Jays?
Undrafted free agent after my senior year in college.
So let's talk about minor league baseball. And if anybody doesn't know, it's such a small percentage of any sport. Professional athletes, make it to the big show. Talk to us a little bit about what that pressure was like, going through the minor leagues.
I've said it before, and I truly believe it, that your whole entire life you go through baseball and you use the game to better yourself. And then when you get to professional baseball, it turns into a business and it starts using you to better itself. And being somebody that's really obsessed with baseball and loved baseball, when that kind of 180'd, it kind of made me say, hey, what the heck's going on here? So it wasn't so much pressure, more so than it was just a different type of game that I didn't necessarily love.
And if you don't mind me asking, because I'm extremely curious, and I understand if you don't want to talk about it. That moment when you got word that it was the end of the road, take us back to that day. How did that feel? How did that sit with you to the point where you're like, now what? What's next?
Initial response was like bitterness, and almost like it doesn't matter. I don't really want to do this anyways. And as it kind of sinks in and you realize how much your identity is tied up into the game of baseball and how quickly it gets ripped away from you, it took me years to kind of figure out what my path was going to be and what I wanted my path to actually be. So yeah, it's a difficult thing, but as always, perspective is the best medicine, and there's far more things that are incredibly more difficult than getting a game ripped away from you. It could be a lot worse.
I really do appreciate you sharing that, and Kris, we'll get to your journey in one moment here. A little bit different path, but the piece that I love is this story. What was that aha moment? What was like that? Hey, I see you cutting down these bats over here. We could do something with those. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, after I got released, I kind of went into this default mode of saying like I didn't need baseball in order to be identified as who I am. So I got a couple jobs, and those jobs weren't really great. So I went back to coaching college baseball, where I went to college. And in 2014, the guy that was the hitting coach, he was cutting wooden baseball bats in half in the dugout with a handsaw. And I saw a bunch of loose bat barrels lying around in the dugout. And I examined them, and I thought to myself that I could probably drill out the center of them and turn them into pretty cool drinking mugs.
And you had were you handy? I mean, you didn't have proper, woodsmanship,
no idea.
Craftsmanship experience. So those first prototypes, how'd they come out? Were they drinkable?
No, horrible, really. I mean, just to say the least.
Do you have them like on a shelf in your office somewhere?
Yeah, from the conception to the idea to notes that I put in a journal or pieces of paper to me trying to drill these things out of my backyard. I have it all documented in a bunch of Tupperwares.
I love it. So Kris, we didn't forget about you in the middle of it. I want to talk about your journey. You had your own media company since 2011, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you
Dehnert Media was a company that I started. My journey actually goes back to Gold's Gym initially. I would open gyms, and I was really good at sales and people and creativity and lead generation, and I was leveraging social media. Right, Facebook had just come out, and I was leveraging this new website called Facebook to drive sales and revenue. And it was, then they're like, "What is it?" So it was in its infancy. And I just realized that what I'm best at is sales, promotion, creativity, outside the box marketing, and I had to find a way to do it in a one-to-many format, and that's what social media provided. You could still create one-dimensional, relationships, but they were still more real than an email kind of thing.
Oh, for sure.
And so anyway, I started running with that, and I had media companies, and I went into real estate, and I leveraged social media to turn houses. And then I said, well, I did that really well, so let me do that for these 10 people. And they were high in real estate, somewhere on, Flip This House. And, so I was running the social media for groups like that. And I found a way to leverage social to get really creative from sales and marketing. And then the logical next step was creating Dehnert Media, which was going to be the umbrella corporation for the other things that I did.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme to me. No, just kidding. Did you always did you always have this entrepreneurial spirit? Did you ever even think about working for somebody else? You're like, screw that shit. I
got fired. I got fired from every job, literally every job that I've had through the teenage years. And I think 22 is when I was 22 maybe when I started with Gold's Gym. But yeah, so the thing is I always, it was almost, maybe not the Matrix, but when I looked at things, it's like, oh, that would work better. This would be different. Oh, you should probably try this. And it was never, it wasn't appreciated and celebrated the way that it is now. And I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs are budding. But it wasn't celebrated when I did it. It was like, this is the way we do things, damn it. And I'm like, well, listen, buddy, that ain't working.
No.
And when I got to Gold's Gym, the owner, I was very unorthodox. How I dressed, what I said. I mean, literally took my shirt off in the middle of the gym to show somebody how much better tan fat looks. Like, listen, I mean, I went to the next level. And he said, listen, man, if you get, yeah, tan fat's better than pale fat, right?
I'm tan fat all summer, man. I love
I took my shirt off at the front desk, and be damned if the guy didn't buy tanning for a year. So point is it's like, he's like, Kris, get the job done. I don't care what that looks like. And I think it was like 18, I got 18 months in a row, top sales. And he's like, okay, listen, man, you want to just, kind of run the place? I got another one coming. You want to go open that one too? And anyway, that was kind of the path. And I was just really unorthodox. And he was the first guy, Dave, to really kind of celebrate and let me run with it. And then obviously I never stopped running. And he told me, he's like, man, one day you're going to realize what you're capable of and you're out of here. And he was right, We're still friends to this day, which is cool. But that's when I started jumping into the entrepreneurship. But as Randall said, typically distance creates clarity, and the further away from a situation you get, the more clear it is how it all transpired. So, I mean, I look all the way back when I was early teens, 13, 14, I was hustling. My mom didn't have a ton of cash.
I mean, it's innate, man. It was always, it's always been in your blood. It was destiny.
Yeah, I mean, I would sell candy. I would sell pencils. I boiled and made cinnamon toothpicks and sold them 10 for $1.
That's aggressive.
Whatever I could. I was a hustler.
I love it.
And a hustler and just get it done, right? And that has stuck with me for decades. Thank God.
Let me ask you this before we get to the story of how Harry met Sally over here. Kris, you had a pretty serious incident back in 2015, life-threatening.
Yeah.
What happened there, man, and what changed for you after that moment?
Basic shit, man. I ruptured my appendix. There was nothing out of the ordinary that it doesn't happen to somebody every single day. The difference is my perspective was so skewed. I thought to myself, I really, literally, for the longest time, my password was the kid can't miss. And it's just that mentality. I was good enough to do a lot of things really well. And I kind of got this bulletproof mentality. And so I was like, yeah, I could take more deals. I owned like 4 or 5 companies at that time, traveling, jet setting, this and that. And I had a little girl at home and everything. Anyway, I got sick. I should have went to the hospital, but I had to go to the Stanley Cup game the next day. I had a meeting at the restaurant. Yeah, well,
it's prioritizing your health, and you just thought, well,
right.
maybe you pulled something, maybe something twisted.
I said, I'll go have a sparkling water, and this will go away. Just
meanwhile,
oblivious.
There's poison leaking into your body there.
Yeah, by the time they found it, it was the size of a football in my core, and it was a week. I waited a week to go into the hospital, and then they took it out. And you have 2 little kids, getting potentially fatally ill. And you can't see them over a Skype call or something like that, and they've never walked, never talked, you never really met them yet. It's interesting, right? It changes your perspective on things.
Priorities, what's important, really.
Yeah.
So let's jump to the story, and we talk a lot, about partnerships of those complementary skills, the soft skills, the hard skills. Randall, what was that like thought process where you're like, all right, I'm really good at X, Y, and Z, but I ain't no shit about, parts of the business there. How did you come to that realization that you need somebody like a Kris to really help you grow and build this business?
In the beginning of things, I mean, if you think about it in the terms of baseball, in the beginning you start on a baseball field and you don't even know what side of the plate to stand on. You don't know which way to run after you make contact with the ball. So I didn't really know what I was good at, and that's still an ongoing process of me trying to figure out what I'm actually good at and what I enjoy and where that intersection is. But I had an idea that I needed to sell the stuff online and through social media, and I wasn't really sure what that looked like, and that's how I came across Kris, and that was what intrigued me the most, is that he had a background in selling a lot of stuff online, and I felt like that was the path to the least resistance for the mugs.
What was something, Randall, you didn't like about Kris in the beginning that he changed your mind on, or some kind of hesitation? We have an open and honest format here. You guys are buds.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, Kris has expanded my mind in the way of looking at money and how to leverage money.
How so?
That not all debt is a bad thing.
Good one.
And debt backed up by revenue, or debt backed up by certain things, can actually lead to better growth.
100%.
And just in general, how to look at it and how to leverage it for time as well.
Cash flow.
Yeah.
So talk about the early days of the relationship. How did you guys, I'm sure there was conflict along the way, and I think conflict is good. Conflict brings out ideas. Conflict drives things forward. How did you guys really learn to work best with each other based on your personalities, the way you operated? What were some of those early, conflict points that you guys had to work through from a partnership perspective? I think it's really critical to share with the audience. A lot of folks have partnerships. Some of those key lessons learned that maybe we could share.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's like 100% perfect, but for the most part, Kris and I are on the same page on a lot of things.
Same page in different lanes, though, right? I think the biggest part was we had the same vision because we both painted it together, and we identified what our strengths and, more importantly, what our weaknesses are, and we stayed the hell out of each other's way.
That's a good one.
You know what I mean?
You guys joined forces here. We got a great product. We got a great idea. I love the video, Kris, and that you have in the signature there. The thought of like, this thing freaking sells itself. You go to a sports bar and you see people drinking beer out of this. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, this is a slam dunk. Sorry, this is a grand slam. Let's use the right sports analogy here. They're beautiful. They're well made. They're awesome. But they weren't always like this. Was it always? And correct me if I'm wrong. The original idea was to mass produce the logos here, and it turned out now that they're each custom, original, handmade. Right? How much does that have to do with the story about the product here?
I mean, it kind of just makes sense as you progress. You kind of listen to the market, and it tells you what they want, and that's kind of just the way that everything has been shaped. Is we kind of brought it to market and just kept listening to the customer, and then we made decisions based on what they were telling us.
And Kris, what was one of the early stumbling blocks or challenges you had in whether it be production, getting it to market? Maybe it was licensing with the leagues.
I mean, none. I mean, so for me, I didn't really look at things as a stumbling block. I love to say you're winning or learning, right? So for me, now again, I've had a handful of companies, so I've kind of been there, done that in a lot of ways. So I kind of knew where to go. I didn't know exactly what the path looked like, but I kind of had an idea. So we avoided a lot of the stumbling blocks, and we had an astounding growth curve because I had a little bit of background in it, right? Because we had faith in one another's ability, trust, right? So, I mean, when our numbers are what they are, call MLB and you're like, hey, we want a license. And they're like, no. We're like, here's our numbers. They're like, here's your license. So that's cool.
It's also a quality, no-brainer product here.
It's a badass product. I mean, we got 20,000 five-star reviews.
And like, just a side note here, and we'll do the proper plug at the end, but once you get this thing, I mean, you're holding a freaking bat. I mean, this is a real bat, right, guys? Like this is sturdy. It's got
you know what it is when you got it in your hand, for sure.
Yeah, they're awesome.
But again, we put out a quality product, right? So when you put out a quality product, people love it. They talk about it. They showcase it. They give you great reviews. They always come back for more. So, I mean, the stumbling block we had was me learning about some of the production when it was just me and Randall, right? And then me trying to get Randall to understand how to leverage, not just money, but remember Karen? Karen was our first employee. Love Karen. She's no longer with us anymore, but I still talk with her. Amazing, amazing, amazing person. And we were like 1,000 orders behind. Customers were just pissed off. And it was like, listen, we need to bring somebody in to put out customer service fires. And Randall's like, well, we got to make money so we can pay this person. I'm like, no, we got to bring this person in so we can make money, exactly. Right? Just some of those kind of conversations that I had kind of lived through a little bit, and this was kind of new to him. But I mean, if that's the biggest roadblock we face coming up,
we call these good problems, right? Like,
yeah, that's not that. It wasn't really a problem. It was about a week-long conversation. We brought on this girl, and then hindsight, we're like, oh yeah, that was a good move, and we also have a saying that we've kind of adopted for a while, and if it's not a hell no, it's a hell yes.
I like that.
So if he brings an idea to the table or something, and I'm like, hell no, then it's cut down. If it's I don't really care, I don't like it, it's a hell yeah. We give it a try.
You lose
fail
in the gray.
fastball forward.
Dude, you lose in the middle ground. The middle is where you lose. The middle is where you lose there.
What could your business do with dozens of additional closed sales every single month? I'm Brian Cristiano, CEO of Bold Worldwide and creator of Deal Flow Accelerator, bootcamp style training program for business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales leaders to help them close up to 30 to 120% more deals in just 6 weeks. If you want to learn more about this program or watch a webinar on how to implement this strategy yourself, visit bold.ceo/pause. Let's grow.
I want to spend a little bit, and Randall, I'd love to get your take on building community, building avid fans, avid customers. How'd you guys go about that from the beginning? Like really having, rabid fans that love the products, that recommend it. How do you guys build and foster community?
By caring. I guess Kris and I were part of this thing that people were kind of asking us questions, and then like just the customer experience in general, just giving a shit. Like I don't think it's rocket science.
It's simple.
Yeah, it's really simple, and I think the internet has kind of diluted it, that it's hard to have like that human connection because it's through the internet. But we have live calls. Somebody calls. It's a business, and I think where people get confused is like when they say it's a brand or it's a or like when people live in the drop shipping world where they're just trying to get a product to a customer and nothing else happens in between. Right. We're running a business, and the most important thing in a business is the customers. And you just put things in place that you take care of the customers. I just feel like it's just kind of just logical, I guess.
Well, I'll throw a couple things in there, Adam. If your audience, you guys look for golden nuggets and things that they can take and implement. I can certainly tell you what some of those look like.
Sure.
Culture, internally, externally. Be very clear on your mission, who you are, and more importantly, who you aren't. And it is clear to everybody in your organization who we are and who we aren't.
Who are you not?
Right? And it's creating a culture. It's painting a clear picture so that everybody's staring at the same picture. And part of our culture is give direction, not directions. Here's where we're going. Now it's time to get us there. If you need help, let me know. Right? It's a lot of empowerment to your team. And on the customer side, on the flip side of that, it really is about consistency on your message. We are the same guys you meet now. We're the same guys at a baseball game, and I'll be the same guy tomorrow when I'm speaking on stage. We have a consistent message, unapologetically authentic, so people know us without a doubt who we are, right? And then from a customer standpoint, it's like Randall said, just give a shit. Do the right thing every single day, and the money actually is about fourth or fifth concern on our list, because that takes care of itself when you consistently do the right things. So
it's interesting.
It always does.
You speak about culture. You speak about the how. Let's talk for a second here about how you guys hire as you're expanding. Talk to us a little bit about, I don't need the full interview process, but what are some of those questions that you ask to really suss out, character, drive, and if someone is going to really mesh well with everyone?
Well, we check their stats like WAR and exit velo first.
Exit angle velocity.
Yeah, right. So really, honestly, my opinion on it is I believe you hire a person and you teach them a job. If you want a salesperson, you got to find somebody with charisma, right? If you want somebody to run logistics, you need somebody with attention to detail. I feel like there's core characteristics based on the project and the position, and you find that person and you teach them a job. And oftentimes, if they don't have experience in that job, but they have the right tools, you don't have to deprogram and unravel what's been done differently or wrong. right? So that's my perspective. But again, we have picked lanes. So I'm in charge more of the sales, the collaboration, the promotion, the celebrity, this kind of stuff. And because that's more me, and Randall's more attention to detail.
Randall
and
just makes it look good.
Heroes, so he oversees more the operational side of things. So, I mean, you could probably speak much more in detail on what you guys look for down there. But the other thing is we hired a bunch of people to run those divisions, so we're not doing the hiring.
You put the right people in play, and you trust them. You know, I always go with the old adage, trust for me is I trust someone until they give me a reason not to. I give them enough rope, to hang themselves. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Is that the way you kind of go about it when it comes down to trust?
I think I think like if you throw a chicken in with a bunch of alligators, the alligators is going to eat the chicken. The same applies to kind of like our culture of things. Is like we have a core group of people that drive our business forward. And for me, I'm a big feel person. So if it feels right, whenever I'm just interviewing the person, like almost immediately, I know whether or not I want to integrate them into our and so if it's a minute or two in and I like them, I kind of make the decision. But then like ultimately it's going to self-police because of what we've built at like a core level. So if it's an alligator, he or she's going to swim with the alligators. If it's a chicken, it's going to weed itself out anyways.
I hear you.
That's
culture
kind of the approach I think.
Bred a team. Our culture bred a team, and when a teammate comes on and they're not up to par, the rest of the team's like, no, this ain't gonna work.
It's gonna be.
We're running here. We don't need you in here messing stuff up. And they have our back, right? And I remember, Randall, I think you were out of town, and I went in. Things were tense, so I went to the store. I bought like 15 cards. I hand wrote notes to everybody, gift cards and everything. Hey, your smile lights up this whole place. Keep it up. Right, just things like that, and so they know we've got their back. I've been up there. Randall's been up there at midnight, 1 a.m, packing boxes during Christmas. Whatever it looks like, they know that we don't ask people to do anything that we won't do ourselves, and that culture allows them to take the same ownership actions. Right, like they own the culture too, and that's a big deal.
And that is a big deal. And Randall, what would you say? From your time playing ball, that. Teamwork, teamsmanship, sportsmanship. What are a couple of those real key things that you really want to infuse in the culture of Dugout Mugs?
It's a different animal to me. As much as I thought like I could go into business and kind of replicate a clubhouse or a dugout or something along those lines, I realize, and I might be completely off with this, or this is my own philosophy, but I kind of learned the hard way that I think there's got to be a separation between not necessarily friendship, but like maybe like there's a lot of banter in clubhouses. There's a lot of like kind of, for lack of a better term, grab ass going on in clubhouses, to where I find myself that if I try to bring that style of or that philosophy to business, it doesn't really work. For me, business is business. Like, let's show up, let's do the job, let's enjoy it, let's be good to one another, but let's not try to mix in the grab ass and the banter.
That's interesting too. There's definitely
they can grab ass. It's really the biggest separation is between us running the ship, the manager running the team.
It's called camaraderie.
We encourage the grab assery. Have fun. If you're not enjoying
that, we mean camaraderie
from
a legal perspective, everybody. Let's just be very clear here. No,
our HR department's like, no.
Remember, before the show, I said I've never once had to remove something from a podcast, but we're going to go back and but these guys,
with the ghost reference,
and I love it what you guys are building here. So let's talk about the future. Before you showed this, the aluminum. The bat mug, if you want to hold that up for a second here. Was this just the next logical progression? Was this just like, all right, guys, we've done the wood thing, let's go back. Let's grab some of these bats from the miners. Did you do any market research here? Like, are people going to love it? Or
we
is this
do a ton of research.
Out of the gate?
We're extremely data-driven as an organization. We may not look like it from the outside, but that's something I learned a long time ago, to be very heavy in, and Randall agrees, I know, because that's how we run the thing. And product development, we started with the Dugout mug, the OG, but then we came out with like some of these, like some of the colored models, and then the whiskey glass and the bottle opener and the shot glass, all the different variations and iterations of product that still are on brand. And we ask a lot of questions, and people are like, oh, I wish it held more, right? Because this is a collect. I mean, you see them all behind me, all autographed and stuff. Like, these are collector, items, really cool, one you use here and there, kind of great for gifts, whatever. But people are like, I want something to put it. I want a lid.
The one in everyday mug.
They want a daily user, and that's what we did. It holds 20 ounces. It's got a lid. It looks just like a bat lid, but it slides, right? And then we took it to MLB and we said, hey, we need this. And they said, oh, man, no, Yeti. Yeti is our, we showed them our numbers. We said, listen, we polled our X 100,000 customers, and 80% of them said they'll buy one of these. Are you sure you don't want to do that?
You don't want to do this?
Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, we just had a change of heart. I'm like, okay. So we got licensing on it too. So I think it was a logical next step and a practical product added to a hell of a roster that we already had.
I love it. And guys, business has been great. And I think you mentioned before you might have some news to share.
Yeah, so today, actually, when we get off this call, we made it on the Inc. 5000. We don't know where. Today it's revealed. Today's the 10th. So they do a reveal on where we end up on the Inc. 5000. So
as long as you're not 5,000.
We made it to the Inc. 5000 in less than 5 years. So it's pretty sick.
Guys, that's awesome, and I love your growth here, and I applaud your efforts here. But something every day that you repeat to yourself.
Today's gonna be a great day. I mean, that's the very first thought that hits my mind as soon as I wake up. I've trained myself to when I get out of bed, as soon as my eyes shoot open, today's gonna be a great day. It's not advice, but maybe it's advice to myself, or just a reminder to myself that today's gonna be a great day.
I love it, Kris.
Create a system you're not a component of. I mean, I live my life like that. Randall knows that. As soon as I see something, I try to find a way to outsource, delegate, automate, replicate something. And if you create a system that you're not a component of, like, you have time. And that's, if there's so I live by a lot of those mantras. I mean, Randall, how many of those have you heard over the years over and over again? And time is, people think they have time. You don't. You don't have time, and you don't have control. So when you just let go and stop thinking you have all the time in the world to get shit done, and you do it now and stop making excuses, I think that's super powerful. And then being unapologetically authentic. There's one thing I don't have to remember, and that's what story I told somebody. Like, this is what you get. I'm likable. If you like me, great. If you don't, that's okay. High five and move on. But right. I think those are just a few that on a daily basis, right.
It's so much easier to tell the truth. You don't have to remember the lie. That's why it's just easy. It's just easy. Randall, let me ask you this question. Do you feel that this journey of your life where you're at now is the path that you're always meant to be on? Do you ever look back and feel like, you failed baseball, or, any regrets along the way?
No. I mean, my number one thing in life is faith. So, I believe that all things are happening the way they're supposed to be happening. And if they're not, like, if you don't feel like they are, it's just because something better is on the horizon. So I have faith in that. And I think everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to be going.
That's tremendous. Kris, number one piece of advice you would give to any aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
One. Create a system you're not a component of. But I mean, also make a decision and then make it the right one. That waffling back and forth crap, man, it does just waste time. Don't be scared to fail. You don't actually lose until you stop. I mean, There's a lot of that stuff out there, man. It just comes down to grit. Quit your bitching. Nothing was given to me on a silver platter. Nothing. Most entrepreneurs I know. It's about grit, Randall. I mean, we talked about that at the beginning. Like, part of my hesitation was, is this kid willing to work as hard as I know I work? And you're probably thinking in your head, like, I'm going to work my ass off. Is this guy going to do it with me, right? And I think that has a lot to do with it. It's a lot of grit, a lot of hustle, no more excuses. And, I think that goes a long way.
So usually I ask this final question to a single guest here. So we're going to figure out how to do this one. And I want to see how close you're aligned here. So, Randall, you go back to your life, you go back to, those early days out on the ball field, busting your ass, practice, working your way up through the minor leagues, that moment when you got cut by the Jays and really thinking about what's next in life, and you had to dig down deep, real deep, and harness that inner tenacity to pull yourself forward, up, and you look back now with that faith and that gratitude that you have to what you guys are building here. And Kris, those journeys along the way, the successes, the failures, that tan fat bod in the gym, right, doing the right thing all the way, and you guys came together and you're building this freaking awesome empire, and I love it here. What is your collective compass? How do you guys stay in focus? Randall and Kris, what is your North Star?
I'll let you go ahead, Randall.
So collectively, what is Kris and I's collective North Star?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No one said the show's easy, man.
Building a company to sell, building it so that we can sell it, and then we'll decide if we want to. I think that is something that we and I both look at clearly, is we build this company with data, with customers, with reviews, we want to build a company that's so sexy that someone's going to come in north of $50 million and wave a check, and then we'll have the opportunity to take it or not if we decide. Right, but we're building it that way regardless. I think that is a collective North Star. I have.
Yeah, what's your individual North Star, Kris?
I have two little girls. One that if things didn't turn out the way they did, wouldn't even exist. Right. I got a 1.5, or she's almost 2 and almost 7. My 2 kids, and they're super important. And I think, but even higher than that, what precedes that is time. Without time, you have nothing, right? We're all in a line, and we don't know how long the line is. The line's always has an end. We don't know where we are. We can't skip. We can't trade places. You don't know when the end of the line is. So to think you have all this time to waste it with people you don't like, doing shit you hate. I'm literally on phone calls, and I say, guys, I don't want to be on this call anymore. Thank you for your time. And I'm out. I just saved myself 20 more minutes that I can't get back. Right?
Can't create it.
I've gotten in the habit of taking 30-minute meetings and making them 15. What the fuck you need 30 minutes? Get to the point, and it all comes down to time. So my North Star is time. And again, what do I decide to do with it at that point?
I love it. Randall, what is your personal North Star?
I feel like it's constantly kind of a moving target a little bit, but ultimately, like something that deep within, like inside of me, just feels like I was destined to do great things, to receive in a big way, so I can give in a big way. And I think just living out that deep feeling of like I'm meant to do something much larger than just exist. I think that's ultimately what drives me.
I love it. Awesome. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both so much for joining me today. I want everyone check out dugoutmugs.com. These are freaking awesome. They're not just great for yourself. They're killer gifts. They're great incentives. They're awesome. They're great collector's items. They're extremely drinkable. Fully support and endorse these guys. I want you to check them out. Aside from Dugout Mugs, where could guys find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Dugout Mugs. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. Everything else is private. I don't have a Facebook anymore, thank God. Instagram's private, but if anybody can find me on LinkedIn, Kris Dehnert.
Awesome.
Yeah, LinkedIn as well, Randall Thompson.
Awesome. These guys are awesome. Everyone check it out. And everyone joining us today, remember, find out more at thepodcast.com for everything. If you really like this episode, share it. It goes a long way. We appreciate it. Check out these guys. Support them. They're awesome. Remember, take care of each other. Look out for one another. And catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, Search The Podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.